Perfect. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this national call on, for some of us, what is a snowy afternoon. So today, as you saw in the agenda, we're going to be talking about the mid-year conference, the Ending Hunger Through Citizen Service Conference, as you all know, will be in Houston, Texas next week. So we just want to prepare everyone for some of the things that are happening, get you all up to date. So first, I'd like to turn it over to Gabby, who's going to talk about some policies and logistics.
All right. Thank you, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm your policy and logistics gal. So first, we'll go over some travel logistics. I'm sure all of you all, I think I've received all your confirmations that you have your flight itineraries. Again, if there's any drama with that, let me know. I'm the one who booked all your flights, so I got that under control. While you're traveling, the day you travel to the conference and the day you travel home, you'll be granted a per diem allowance. So the amount of that allowance will depend on what time you're traveling. So, if you're traveling in the morning, you get a $10 breakfast. If you're traveling around the afternoon, you get a $15 lunch. And if you're traveling at nighttime, you get a $20 dinner. So depending on what time you're flying, that money will be deposited directly into your paycheck on the 28th. And that is along with 3 other per diems that you're going to have during the conference. So that's breakfast and dinner on Sunday of the conference, and lunch on Monday will also be on your own. You'll be able to venture out into downtown Houston and find some place to eat, and there'll be money in your account for that as well. Reimbursements. We have a few policies about that regarding travel costs to and from the airport. So if you drive to the airport, we will reimburse you at a mileage of 54 cents per mile. If you park at the airport, we will reimburse you for that as well if you provide the receipts and as long as you park at the cheapest parking available. We prefer subway metro, so if you could do that, that would be the best. And also we will reimburse for that if you have receipts. If you need to take a taxi or car service, that needs to be approved before you go. So let me know if you're going to need to take a taxi to and from the airport at least 24 hours before the departure, and then I'll get that approved for you. And again, we need a receipt for that.
What about Lyft? Would that count as, like Lyft or Uber, would that count as taxi expense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing. They send you like an email receipt, so you can just forward that email to us.
Oh, sorry, Gabby, to interrupt you. Just I should have said this earlier, but we'll have some time at the end for questions. So if you do have any questions as we're going through all these things, just make a note of them, and we'll have some time for everyone to answer at the end. And then also just remember to mute your phone lines as well.
And just another note on the taxi. Taxis are not automatically approved. You have to have a valid reason as to why you can't have a family member drive you, you can't drive yourself, or why you can't take the subway. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yes. And that same policy goes for a check bag. All of you are going to have a free carry-on since you're all flying on airlines that have free carry-on. If you need a check bag, if you think you're going to need more than a carry-on, then you also need pre-approval for that. So shoot your leader an email explaining why you need a check bag, and then we'll get that approved, and then you'll be able to check a bag, and we'll reimburse you for that. But if it's not approved, we won't reimburse you. Okay, so you got on your flight, you're coming to Houston, you've landed in Texas, and here you are. We're all going into IAH, that's George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Most of you are flying on United, but there's still some of you on American and Delta. So American and Delta and some United are going to fly into A and B, but a lot of y'all will be coming into C. So we all will just rendezvous in C. So that's the middle, the largest terminal in the airport. If you see the little red line up here at the top, it's the connecting terminals, and that is a little like in-house, shuttle thing that drives to and from all the terminals. So if you arrive in A or B, you can just hop on that little red line and cruise on over to C. Once you get to C, go down to baggage claim, And Simone will be waiting for you. She'll be shining bright like a star right next to baggage claim number 1. Over there in the corner, she'll have a little NICA sign, AHOC sign. You'll see a group of your cohort coming together there. So depending on when you come in, there'll be 3 shuttles from the airport to our hotel. So you'll meet in 3 separate groups there with Simone, and Simone will usher you to the bus that will take you to the hotel. Once you get to the hotel, they'll be expecting you. Just go up to the front, tell them your name, they'll give you the key and all that. You'll get to meet your roommate, start networking. It's a good time. Okay. So now we're at the hotel. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Gabby. There was a change. When you guys arrive at the hotel, you're actually going to find our registration table. You don't have to go to the front desk. There'll be signs. We'll have all your keys and everything, so you don't have to go to one location.
Okay, perfect. So come to us. All right. So I sent out a preliminary schedule there in the welcome booklet, and you'll get a more detailed one when you get to the conference. But basically the in-conference policies are pretty simple. It's not on the books, but we want you guys to be attentive and connected. This is your opportunity to really gain something and learn something, and we think that you definitely will. The dress code, we need you just business casual, nice dress clothes on Friday. That's the only day. That's the day we'll be interacting with the speakers and the keynotes. So we want everybody looking their best. On travel days, it's free for you. Wear travel clothes, anything comfortable. Saturday is our volunteer day, so you also wear comfortable clothing. Some of you are going to be outside, so closed-toed shoes, all that. And Sunday again, that's just going to be for us, so casual clothes, nothing too fancy. So just be prepared to dress up on Friday. And lastly, the flex time policy. So since we're going to have you there from the 28th to the 1st, you're going to be working more hours than you usually would. You're going to get 1 flex day to use when you return. You can actually use it anytime within the period of January 23rd to February 5th. That's 1 day you can take off, have fun, get it approved by your supervisor before, and let us know on America Learns. Just indicate when you took your flex day. And if you don't use it within this period, then you lose it. All right. I believe that's all for me. Ella, do you have any other policy notes?
Nope, just that if your supervisor does not approve the flex day, you can't take it. So they also have to approve it. Just us telling you that you get one doesn't mean you automatically get one.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you, Gabby. So now we're going to have Simone chat with us about some training day preparations. So off to you, Simone.
Great. So I have been busily with Ella and some of our other NICA staff members working on our training day. So our training day, as Gabby talked about before, will be on Friday. It is our fanciest day in the sense that you will be interacting with a lot of really interesting people in the anti-hunger community, and so it's a day for you to get to shine. It's also a day for you to get to learn a lot, and to me, this is the most exciting day of the conference. So that's going to be the day after you all fly in. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can prepare for that day. So first off, you all have already taken the survey that I sent out or was sent out signing up for your sessions and volunteer day. So as I mentioned, or as it said on the survey, we're going to try our hardest to accommodate your first and second choice for those particular training sessions, but there is a limited capacity in rooms. So we're going to go by whenever you signed up, and also just the capacity of the room itself. So some of the folks that you will be interacting with, you may want to get in contact with them later. We've talked to our speakers, and those who are interested in sharing their email addresses, will make sure that you all have them. Not all of them will be interested in sharing their email addresses, but one thing I wanted to talk about is business cards. So it's interesting, I think, in this in this day and age of lots of technology that business cards, like a physical business card, is still something that people hand out. It's still very important. It's a great way to collect information not only from the speakers but also to allow the speakers to have your contact information. So I wanted to remind you all that business cards, if you have them, should be brought to the conference, and that you can exchange them not only with your fellow AHOC VISTA members, but we're also going to have VISTA members from Feeding Texas and Volunteer Houston, in addition to many of the speakers that you will be interacting with during our keynotes and during the breakout sessions. So make sure you bring your business cards. And if you don't have business cards, I would suggest getting those together, or even creating a small one before you come. It's just an easy way and a professional way to exchange information with folks at the conference. So the next part I wanted to talk about is formulating questions. So we are going to have some speakers at the conference who, like I mentioned, are they're very influential figures in the anti-hunger world. And you all have seen from the welcome packet and also from choosing your sessions, those speakers were listed. So what I would suggest is doing a little bit of research before you come, and looking up more information about those speakers, and thinking about what types of questions that you would like to ask them. This is all part of networking, and it's a way for you to, not everyone likes to formulate questions right on the spot. It's a way to come off as being polished and knowing what you're talking about. So if you're trying to make an impression with someone, formulating your questions beforehand is a really great way to do that. It also allows you to listen to what the presenter is saying while they're giving their presentation, and you're not just thinking about what kind of question. It's a big part of active listening, is that you're not trying to figure out a response while the person is talking. You just listen to what they're saying. So that's another thing you could do. You could formulate questions beforehand, and so that you can be a good active listener, or you could even wait until the end, take notes during the talk, and ask questions that you've ask questions that are based on the notes that you've taken. One thing I wanted to note is that a couple of our speakers, particularly our lunch keynote on Friday of the training day, our keynote speakers will be Wendy Spencer, who is the CEO of the Corporation for National and Community Service. So that's the head of the organization that runs AmeriCorps. And then Max Finberg, who is the new head of VISTA. So the head of VISTA, the entire program, and the head of the Corporation for National and Community Service will be our keynote speakers that day. So I just wanted to remind you all to, not that we think that you won't be, but to ask respectful questions. I can understand that some folks may feel frustrated in certain senses with VISTA, and we're not to say that you shouldn't engage in conversation, but just noting that your questions, as you're formulating them, should be respectful of the time of these individuals. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is networking techniques. So we've touched a little bit on this, bringing your business cards, formulating questions beforehand. One thing that I think people tend to kind of go over, they don't really think about it too much, is introducing yourself. So how do you think about how you want to introduce yourself to people? Not only your fellow AHOC members, but the other VISTA members that will be there, and the speakers. So anyone, you're making impressions. We only get to be together twice in your year of service, during the mid-year conference and end-of-year conference. And some of these folks you might only get to see at this conference and make those contacts. So think about when you're introducing yourself, make sure you speak clearly, that you speak slowly, and that so that someone can really take advantage of the fact that you're taking the time to introduce yourself to them, and you want to make an impression. So it's easy to get starstruck or easy to get freaked out when you're talking to someone new. I'm talking about the speakers right now. But just a calm introduction. Don't shove your business card in their face if that's what you have. And then when it comes to your other VISTA members, of course, making a good impression, because After this program is done, if you're interested in continuing work in the line of social justice, your fellow AHOC members will become your colleagues, and just wanted to make sure that you're making a good impression on those around you. So with that, I am going to bring it over to Lauren, who will talk about best practice preparation.
Great, thank you, Simone. And just once again, to remind everybody to please mute your phones if you haven't, and to save your questions at the end, because I'm sure there are quite a few people who have a question. And if you don't feel comfortable or you don't have any questions at the end, you can go ahead and shoot your VISTA leader an email or give one of us a call, and we'll be able to answer your questions for you. So I'll be talking about the best practice session day, and that will be happening on Sunday. And you might be saying to yourself, well, Lauren, what is a best practice? So a great way to put what a best practice is, and actually by definition a best practice is a proven technique or an effective procedure. But a great way for all of us to think of a best practice as VISTAs is an effective way that we've overcome a challenge. So, during your year, you have a lot of goals that you're tasked to accomplish, and sometimes you won't be able to accomplish those so easily. So, for example, you might have been tasked with increasing the number of farmers at a farmer's market who accept SNAP benefits. And maybe a way that you overcame that challenge was to create a toolkit to inform those farmers why they should accept SNAP benefits and how they can do it, and how you as a VISTA at your site can help them out with that. And that toolkit, for example, would be your best practice. So I just want to share with you how this day will go. I'm not going to share too much information about the day, slightly because it's going to sound a little bit more confusing, and you'll get a better sense of how the day will work once Sunday rolls around and we're actually going about the session. But also, if you do feel a little bit lost, I would recommend that you read that best practice guidance handout that is in the back of your welcome packet that we send out to you all. But generally, how the day will work is we're going to split you all up into 3 groups, and those groups will be based on your regions. So once you're in your 3 regional groups, you're going to be put in different rooms. And throughout the day in your rooms, or we'll be switching off rooms, but we're going to be discussing 9 topics. And these 9 topics all have to do with things that you're working on, or tasks that you're completing, or goals that you're completing based on your term of service. And then when you're in each topic talking about them, you're going to be able to choose a subtopic and actually discuss that in more depth in smaller groups. So let me put that in an example for you. Let's take me, for example. Let's pretend that I'm going to be put in one of those 3 larger groups, like I said. Then I'm going to be put in one of the rooms to talk about a larger topic, let's say volunteer management. And then once I'm in that topic of volunteer management, I'm going to be able to choose from about 3 different subtopics. So let's say, for example, within volunteer management, I choose the subtopic of training volunteers because that's what I'm working on as a VISTA, or that's what I'm going to be working on as a VISTA, and I think that's going to be a challenge for me. So I'd like to hear from my fellow members how I can overcome that challenge at my site. So like I said, that's kind of how it's going to be. 3 groups, 9 topics throughout the day. We're going to be rotating through those topics, so you'll get to chat about a subtopic within one of those 9 topics, but you won't be able to chat about all the subtopics. So like I said, it does sound a little bit confusing, but it will make a lot more sense on Sunday. And the reason why we want to have this best practice session is for you all to share your experiences with each other and learn from each other, basically, which is great because, you know, like I've said, if you are having some doubts about what you're going to be doing in the future with one of your VAD goals, or, you know, you're having some trouble with something that you're working on at your site right now, this is a great way to talk with your fellow members, get some feedback, and maybe you'll come out with a great way to handle a situation after the conference when you're back at your site. The other reason why we want to have this best practice session is so that we can collect your stories and experiences of your service. And we'll be collecting these stories from you at the end of the day. You'll be getting handouts. We'll be writing on papers all the best practices. But we want to collect those stories and put them into a guide. And right now we have the year 4, so last year's guide, up on our AHOC resource library, which is on Google Drive. And you can take a look at that now before the conference so you can get a better idea what that guide looks like and what we'll be doing with your stories. So along with, you know, just talking about what you're doing and what your best practices are, we ask that you bring some materials with you if you'd like to share. And, you know, those materials can be anything that you've created or developed since you started your terms of service. And, you know, those could be any guides you've created, any flyers, toolkits, handouts, evaluations, surveys you created, just anything that you've done over your year that has been a success for you, that you've reached one of your goals by using this. And we encourage you to bring a couple paper copies, hard copies of these materials. But also I want to encourage you all to, if you're bringing a laptop or, you know, a computer, I would encourage you to have a copy of those on your computer to share with your fellow VISTAs, because we're going to ask that we collect those materials from you so we have them on hand and can put them in the guide. But also if you have them through email or a file that you could share with your fellow VISTAs, that's a great way to share things amongst yourselves. So that's all I have for you in terms of the best practice session preparation. Now, like I said, we have time at the end for questions. And I see that there are some questions in the chat box. So, Ella, do you want to help me moderate those questions and so we can get everybody's questions answered?
Absolutely. So the biggest question was from Caitlin Toles. She just asked, are we going to receive a best practice note-taking template like last year? And I responded and said for those of you who have been with us before, the format for the best practice sessions are going to be different this year. And we are, there's not going to be a specific handout for you to take notes on, as we didn't get those handouts back last year. So instead there'll be scrap pieces of paper for you to take notes so that you can take back ideas to your site. But there will be a handout at the very end of the day that you'll complete to submit your success story and or best practice.
Great. So I guess I'll open it up for any other questions that people have. You can unmute your phones, or Ella, do you think it would be better if people typed it into the chat feature?
Either way works. If you can talk and ask, that's great. If you feel more comfortable doing the chat feature, you can go ahead and do that as well.
I had a question about the per diems for travel days.
Mm-hmm.
If we're traveling in more than one of those time periods, is it whatever amount is more, or is it, or do you just get both?
You get both.
Okay.
Now, it also depends on the flight time and when we calculated you'd have to leave your home of record. So, for example, if your flight's at like 11 a.m., we're not going to give you the breakfast per diem because theoretically you'd have to leave your house at like 9 or whatever to get there. But we feel that you have enough time to make breakfast in the morning, so you'd only get a lunch per diem. But if your flight was at 9:30 a.m., then we would give you a breakfast and lunch per diem. So it's based on your flight time.
Okay.
So we had a question from Stephanie Hunter on the chat. She's just asking if some of the materials I've created are still in the editing and finalization process. Should I still bring them to the conference even though the final product is not ready yet? I would recommend you bringing them to the conference even though they're not finalized, just because they're still great to share with all the members and to us. And especially for the AHOC team on our side, if those materials aren't finalized, we can definitely get copies of them from you while they are once they are finalized. So I would recommend that yes, you do bring them.
There are two other questions in the chat feature as well. Would you like me to read those, Lauren, or do you have them?
No, I can read them. So I see Kathleen Costello is asking that she did not receive the survey for choosing a training site, and will she still be assigned to one and know what it is before she gets there?
Yeah,
I think this is good for you.
So this is Simone. Yeah, Kathleen, I should have received one, but I guess if you didn't, I can send it to you right now, and it takes a very short amount of time to complete it. So you won't know what sites you're assigned to before you get to the conference, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
But that's correct. So Kathleen, I can just send it to you. You should have been on the list, but I guess you weren't. And you can just fill them out as soon as possible.
Yeah, that means you probably didn't receive the welcome guide either then. Maybe I have a bad email address for you.
Gabby and Simone, can we also get another email sent out to Amanda McDaniel as well?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Gaurav, I see that you have a question about, and you're asking what time are we all going to be leave for the service projects on Saturday. And Ella, correct me if I'm wrong, the service projects start at different times, so it will depend on what service project you're assigned to will determine what time you're going to be leaving on Saturday.
Group 1 will leave at 9 a.m. Group 2 will leave at 11:30. Do not anticipate that you'll be back to the hotel before 2 o'clock. Do not, if you have friends in Houston, make arrangements to do anything on Saturday. As Saturday night we are going out and we are doing a big dinner together. So just a thing, if you have friends and family in Houston, the night that I would suggest that you make arrangements for them so that you are not conflicting with any AHOC structured programming is Saturday or Sunday night. You will all have your own meal per diems to go out and eat your own meal. So that is the night I would encourage you to schedule any personal things that you would like to do in Houston, and advise and ask that you do not schedule any other personal things at any other time.
Did anybody else have any questions on the phone that hasn't been able to ask them yet?
There were two other questions that came through the flat chat feature, Lauren, that there's a lot going on that you might have missed. The first is from Beth about what materials you should bring to the best practice sessions, asking if you will know the topics and subtopics in advance. We're not going to release the topics in advance just because it's a facilitated discussion and you may not reach all the topics, but just look at this like any success story, any material that shows an example of a best practice or an example of something that you will want to share with your VISTA members as a good representation of your work you should bring with you. So if there's something that you're very proud of, a major accomplishment, bring it with you. If there's something that you are facing as a challenge, like you don't know how to present an infographic or a material, or you're struggling in a certain area, then bring it with you. So just bring any material that you feel is a good representation of your work or a material that you're struggling with and you would like to get some help on. And then Karina, an example to your question about the audio visual. in terms of the best way to get that to the conference, if you could just go ahead and send any audio-visual materials that you all may have, go ahead and send those to your VISTA leader or bring them on a flash drive, and we can have computers available so that you can share those audio-visuals with your group. Those are all the chat feature questions, Lauren.
Yeah, do we have any more questions on the call? Oh, sorry, Simone, did I interrupt you?
Oh, no. I was just going to say that a couple of, if there aren't any other questions, I just wanted to note that on the agenda, I just wanted to make sure that I announced to you all that the last day to sign up for VISTA Blend courses is Sunday, January 24th. So you should look at the agenda and look at those VISTA Blend courses. And see if you'd like to sign up for one. And then also we wanted to remind you all that President's Day is on February 15th and that we have that day off as a NICA holiday.
Woo, holidays. Did anybody else have any questions that they haven't been able to ask yet?
The last thing that I just want to say to everybody is a big shout out to the 3 VISTA leaders that are on this call for making this conference happen for all of you guys. So when you're on site at the conference, be sure to give them your thanks, because without them, we would not be going to the conference. Big shout out to them.
And a shout out to Ella Fowler, who also helped coordinate this entire thing.
Yeah, MVP over here.
Yeah, seriously.
The VISTA leaders, I know, on behalf of the VISTA leaders, I could say that we definitely helped, but we'd all be crying in a corner if it weren't for Ella. So, with that, I'd say enjoy the conference, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think we'll end the call here since it doesn't look like we have any more questions. Since we all have been working hard on the AHOC team, you all can bring us presents, cookies, chocolates will be welcome. I personally like Sour Patch Kids, so, anybody want to make my day.
I'll be having I'll be greeting you all at the airport, and I'll have a small mini guitar, so if anyone wants to serenade me, I'm okay with that too.
Or be serenaded.
Or be serenaded. I could sing to you all too, but that just might be uncomfortable for everyone.
No, Simone, you have a great voice. But yes, thank you all for coming on the call. We'll let you go and have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
All right, see you soon.
Stay warm, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.